Hello, everyone. Gosh, it feels like it's been a while.
It's been so long.
Welcome to 2020. Lots of metaphors that we could use about 2020. Actually, if I hadn't chosen the word of the year that I chose, doing okay there?
Yep, sorry. I didn't want any corny, cheesy 2020 vision things to come out.
Thankfully, that was not what it is. But anyway, it is 2020, and we are now celebrating episode 58 of Genn and Millie, where a Gen Xer and a millennial share the strength-based perspective through which they view the world. The world. We are your hosts, the 2020 version of Allison and the 2020 version of Tess.
Whew.
Good to be back.
So good to be back.
This is probably one of the most excited to chat with in a podcast episode format, you and I whatever we call this gig, that I have been in a long time, because we've seen each other, but we have not been able to actually connect. And some amazing things happened.
Oh, gosh.
Over the course of the last time that we talked on Genn and Millie.
Jeez Louise, I know.
Sorry for all the outside sounds. I always listen back to these.
Okay.
As you know.
Yep.
And I notice when the papers ruffle, and I notice when my bracelets make sounds. And I want to apologize to the readers for
Listeners.
that. Listeners, readers, listeners.
Whoever you are.
But I do want to give before we even get started, specific gratitude and shout outs
to several of our awesome listeners.
Yes.
Yep.
I'm going to cover two, Janae and Sarah. Probably the two you would like to cover as well.
Yep.
But I'm always kind of amazed at how people choose to spend their time and energy. And, I can see that sometimes people will spend time and energy on an email that just rips somebody up one side and down. Mm-hmm. That's a really interesting choice of a use of energy. Yeah. But the emails that we receive regarding Genn and Millie dialogue, particularly from Janae and Sarah on the regular, are such beautifully introspective, thoughtful, positive, self-searching, but also strength-based and positive praise. I want to really give them a shout out for the thoughtfulness that they put in an email that helps you and I in ways that they probably would never realize. Just keep going. And I don't always get emails that say,
"You're doing a fantastic job." Yeah.
And you would think, Allison, gosh, you're approaching 45, years old, and this is what you do, and you're serving 10,000 mentors. You can't certainly expect to need meaningful praise. I really do. We all do. Yeah. And we all deserve to have that. And sometimes I can be pummeled with feedback, and not so positive feedback, and I take that very, very seriously. So I just want to thank Janae and Sarah for their very positive feedback. I actually printed it so that I could read it more than once. This is now my little Genn and Millie folder.
I love it. Wow, so organized. Such an input thing.
Thank you very much. And also, printing emails is a fun thing for me.
And is that a Christmas letter?
I have... Oh, I'm missing one. I have two, and I brought another one with me. I wonder where the other one is.
Yes.
I have two examples of Christmas letters that were sent to me. So I told you on the last episode that I had reached out to my former Professor Doc Dudley.
Yes.
In response,
my gosh.
I sent him an email. In response, he sent me a Christmas letter and the note at the bottom.
Wonderful to hear from you and see the picture. We are well and both finally retired.
So he had no idea, of course, that we talked about Christmas letters on this podcast. That's their Christmas letter.
Oh my gosh, stop.
It's called the Dudley Dribble. I mean, I love everything about it.
Dudley Dribble volume. We have volume 25. They've been doing this for 25 years?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, it looks like a fold out. I mean, it's a legal sized paper folded in half, and it looks like a news article.
It looks like a newsletter.
Newspaper.
So that's one of the examples. The other is from my friend Amy, and I thought I had it here with me, but my friend Amy puts together a really beautiful Christmas letter every year, and I look forward to it. And then this is Gigi's. And it is in Gigi style, a poem. And this year's theme is 2019 on the move. So they have a new address, which they detailed. But Gigi is really, really good at putting together the Christmas poetry. So based on our last episode, The Joy of the Christmas Letter, I wanted to note that I did receive some and how much I love them. Sarah's that she contributed, Sarah Skaggs, was online.
She wrote an Christmas letter.
Yeah, I loved it. It was really, really beautiful. But I also just think that sometimes there are things that we say here on Genn and Millie, and you can hashtag connectedness around this, that then we talk about and then they happen.
Yep.
And you just can't really make those things up. But I always listen back for quality of sound, and I try to be more cognizant. Like, can you hear me when I bump something? And can you hear me ruffling the pages? And do you hear my loud, jangly jewelry? But I also listen back for continuity. Okay. So that our one episode blends into the next and blends into the next, because we are shocked at the people who listen.
Yeah.
We received an email from a parent, not even a student who hasn't yet matched yet.
A student on a waiting list in a chapter who listens to Genn and Millie. Yeah.
And asked, where do I get the episodes prior to, 19, which is, they were prior videos.
They were the YouTube videos, yep.
So I don't think we have any scope of the outreach. And so I think even tying in the last episode to the new episode, every once in a while, throwing in, this is how this got started, throwing in, here's where episodes 19 prior are.
Yeah.
Because if you're just finding us or you're just listening in, you may not know
you're
the
entering
context.
into a long-standing conversation.
Yes.
A very long time.
And I also think that it very much mirrors what our mentors and mentees do. They have a conversation. They don't see each other for a week.
Yep.
They come back together. We usually try to tie something in. Last time we talked, how is this going? So I wanted to tie those things in. And then I thought it was such an absolutely phenomenal tie-in for you and I to discuss our words of the year and the new year. Tess and I are around each other often. We are constantly in dual dialogue with people. So someone may be CC'd on an email, or we may be, the fact that you don't know what my word of the year is yet is absolutely, it's the most work I've had to do to keep a surprise in a while.
Oh my gosh.
Because I typically put it out on my blog.
Yeah.
And I've waited.
Yep.
And I've typically kind of put it out on social media, but I've waited. But there have been a couple times that I thought, oh no. I commented on something that, I don't think it was Morgan Harper Nichols. It was someone else. And I commented, my word of the year is, and then I thought, I hope Tess doesn't see this.
I did not.
And so I worry about, those mistakes. I also want to make note that I, on the last episode, made a mistake in referring to Mari. Is it Mari, Andrew?
Mari, Andrew.
I referred to her as Maria, not just once, 3 times. It's Mari, Andrew. And I just want to make sure that I state that I had that wrong. You were worried about quoting Einstein incorrectly,
Socrates. Oh my god!
Really, I called someone who's living and who's both of us see your material.
We're from significant different generations and time periods, and have contributed very significantly different things to the world.
But you know how I feel about names, and so I very much apologize. But one of the things, and the way I would like to introduce this to you, if you will allow me, and I did not give you a heads up on this.
Okay.
If you will allow this. I recently started following a blogger, and the blogger, when you sign up and subscribe for her blog, she's at the end of her email, and it's a pretty lengthy email. It says, please send me 7 pieces of you, 7 interesting pieces of you, so that I can know my readers better. Now you have to read her email all the way to the end for the subscription, but you have to read the email.
Yeah.
As you know, I put together the match support email, and I think this year maybe I'll put, if you get to the bottom of this email, I'll give you $50 because I don't think people read it. So she asked for 7 pieces of you, and I responded, not thinking that I would get a response, and I got a very lovely response from the author.
Oh my gosh.
And I thought the best way for me to reveal to you my word of the year would be through the 7 pieces of me.
Okay.
Now, I did not give you a chance to do 7 pieces of you because, first of all, most of the time we do surprises on here to each other, but I also think it would be nice continuity.
Okay.
So I'm going to give 7 pieces of me.
Okay.
Next episode, Tess is going to give 7 pieces of Tess.
Oh, I have an assignment for next episode. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So, hi, Krista. I found you via Joshua Becker,
Okay,
Becoming Minimalist.
Okay, wonderful. Pause quickly before you get into this. Is your word embedded in the
Yes.
7 pieces of me somewhere?
Yes.
Okay. And
That's
so
why.
I am supposed to listen and make inferences about your word of the year based on that.
I believe that you have heard this word from me so much, and if you go back and listen to previous Genn and Millie episodes, it will probably make you...
I know I will be angry once I know it, but I think the learner context intellection in me does not want to guess incorrectly, so I'd rather abstain from guessing.
I don't want you to, and that's fine, but what I want you to do is say, as I wish that I was recording this, so that your facial response to your context recognition that you already know this is written all over this. All right.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, right to Krista, I found her via Becoming Minimalist. She wrote an article called I Joyfully Decluttered, which I was surprised by. I was expecting tips for cleaning out closets and organization, and what I found was a much-needed reminder of what life is all about. Not stuff, more heart. Raw, real, authentic discovery. Letting go of the things that get in the way of my true self. It was delightful. Thank you for your article. I have read and shared it many times. Here are 7 pieces of me. Number 1, I have found myself recently independent. Just recently went through my 2nd divorce and have 2 adultish children. Learning this season of life where it's all up to me. Number 2, I write for fun. I have a blog that started 10 years ago as a way to help me work through the divorce from my kid's dad, whom I had been with since high school. It's called Alleology, which for me means learning to be me. I am still learning. I still have so much to learn, and writing helps me work through the lessons. Number 3, I'm a very lucky co-parent with my kid's dad and his wife, who is truly a gem. We share holidays, Sunday dinners, and lots of life together. I know that's rare, and sometimes I feel compelled to share about it because I believe it demonstrates that there is growth and positive change to be found in difficult situations if we choose to do so. I work for a nonprofit, a school-based mentoring program, and I love being part of people finding their authentic self through strength-based learning. Work is not work to me. It's part of me, and I'm so grateful to love what I do. I'm a proud adoptee, and both biological and adoptive families are part of my life, and have been a constant in my kids' lives. That is one of the most unique parts of my life story, and I'm so grateful and aware of the uniqueness. I grew up on a small farm in southeastern Nebraska, and I've lived within a few hours of that home place. Most of my family members reside within an hour of one another. This fact, just stating it, was new to me because I realized we have chosen to live close. Number 6, these days are my favorite days of the year, a time for reflection in the days past and hopeful anticipation of the days ahead. New Year's Eve is my favorite holiday, and I typically determine and share my word of the year. This year is choice. Number 7, reminding people of their gifts and talents is a part of my job, my being, my purpose, my reason for waking up in the morning. Finding your writing has been a joy. You're a gifted, honest writer and heart speaker. I look forward to reading more. My word of the year is choice.
Choice.
Because, as you've heard me say 9,000 times, and now it's up to me. Everything comes back to we all have choices to make. We all have powerful choices to make. So when I listen back to the last 2 Genn and Millies, I'm like, Allison, I hear it before you even hear it, before I even arrived at this. And I did not determine finality until those glorious new days of the year, end of December, beginning of January. Choice is my word of the year. Okay. You had to have seen this coming.
No, not
Okay,
at all.
so here's 2 things that I think happened. One, I think you thought it was going to be, because of my input communication, some kind of beautiful word.
No. I thought it was... Oh, sorry, that felt very strong. No. I thought it was going to be a call out to what you needed.
That is what I need. I have not. Choice is what I need. You know what it falls back into, Tess, is permission to choose for me.
Yes. Okay. So I guess a way to then revert it, because technically speaking, you always have choices. You've made many choices. You will make many choices, right? The fact that you have agency for choice, I love the word. And so I'm just trying to explain why I was thinking something a little different. But choice is always a reality. So being cognizant of the choices, right, is phenomenal. And I love it. And I'm so excited for what this brings. That's a reality, though, continually, right? I was envisioning aspirational. Of what you would like to call out to, of what you need, rather than choice is a reality, but being aware of the choices you make is a great intention.
And with my input that I love that, okay, so like choice is the word, and there's so many other words that go into it. Independent choice. For the first time in my life since I've been 5 years old, I am literally not responsible for anyone else. For the first time in my life, I am not responsible. So the choices I'm making, it's so freeing to say they're all up to me, but also terrifying.
Yeah.
Like, I make a choice. I can't blame it on anybody else. No. I can't, in my daughter's words, make excuses or say, that's a cop-out. If I try to say, oh, no, my kids need me to do this, or my kids need me to, to go be there.
Okay.
No, it's all up to me. Choice.
Yep. I love it.
So I'm very excited because I think the independence and the freedom that I am suddenly very rarely in my life do I have a place where I've never been before.
Yeah.
And although physicality, I'm in a place that I've been in the Omaha area before, I am literally at a human place that I have never, ever been. And the freedom and the independence and the empowerment.
I love it.
Is incredible. And it feels really, really, really good.
Yep. Amen. I love it.
Okay. So that was how I thought that I would not just tie in the Christmas letter and the writing of something from the past.
Yep.
Now I shared my 7 pieces. Future casting, you will be sharing 7 pieces of you next episode, but you're sharing your word of your word of the year now.
Yeah. Any speculations?
Okay. So I did have some until you went to London.
Okay, walk me through it.
So last year was contemplation.
Yep.
The year prior was?
Waiting well.
Yes. So I feel that often your word and theme of the year is, how do we say it in strengths language?
Oh.
Backward facing. Backward facing?
Retrospective.
Yes. Yep. #context.
Yep. I
believe that this year you are forward-facing instead of context-facing. And I believe that my estimation around your word of the year had to do with, I don't want to say calculated future casting or calculated change, but visionary change. Visionary momentum.
Okay, so if you were to sum that in a word.
Well, 2020 vision, I didn't think you'd go that corny.
Oh, no.
But I did think that you were forward-facing with your word. Then I feel that you went to London, and I feel like in London, you were in your element in all capacities. When we talk about the 5 areas of well-being,
yep.
I feel that London represents all 5 to you, maybe with the exception of financial, because it would stretch that a little bit. But I feel that all other areas of well-being are honored in that location, which was the location you had never been.
Correct.
Again, forward-facing.
Okay.
So I couldn't really find a word that reflected optimistic change or optimistic future, or I couldn't. I just kept going back to like optimism or hope kind of things. But I know that you're not going to choose a word like hope. And I know you're not going to choose a word like optimism. And I know you're not going to choose a word like future.
Why not?
Because it's not you. It's not learner enough. It's not Professor Tess enough, in my opinion. So maybe you're going to blow my mind and tell me that your word is like, cat or something. Then you're going to throw everything off, and then we'll edit this thing, and I'll take all those things that I said back. I just feel that your intellect requires a heftier word than something like choice.
This is scary because you have explicated my thought process better than I can, and you have named my word.
I did? In what I said? Oh, gosh.
This is really scary. I feel very seen and exposed in a positive and non-positive way.
I hope you feel seen and heard. I hope you feel seen and heard.
Yep, you just said it again. Hope.
Oh my God, your word is hope. Are you serious? I did describe your word.
And what is neat about...
Oh my gosh, did you know that?
I know.
That is an awesome, awesome word for 1,000 reasons. But really amazing that you chose that.
Yeah.
I want to hear about why.
Okay, I have to compose myself first. All right, we know, what was it, 55? Episode 55 that you said was the one 54. You broke down at? 54, okay. 58 for me. Jeez Louise.
Look out for
Good thing we have this cat towel to wipe my tears down.
Wow.
Yes. I don't even know how to describe it. It's simple yet profound.
Yes.
And that's what I really like about it. Because, so I was, and I go through, my word of the year, because listeners know that I'm a Christian. And so I spend time in prayer with God about my word every year. And I kept feeling in my spirit the word preparation, but that seemed very clinical. And
oh my gosh. See, so I could have seen you choosing preparation because it sounds like contemplation.
Yeah. So preparation, and it didn't seem to encompass. And what I kept feeling about that was I have certain goals financially. I have certain, decisions that I am, making in this season of my life. And so I had, but it seemed it seemed to encompass. The word preparation seemed to encompass tangible and physical things, as well as emotionally ready for what's coming. But there was something more about not just, at least for me, things have been, I believe, spoken out, and I have felt in discernment from God about certain steps in my life. But sometimes reality confines us. And our current present circumstances confine us only to what we see and what we see in the past, which is totally a barrier label of context, right? And so I actually heard a sermon on hope. And it really clicked that everything that I was feeling in the word preparation was summed up actually by the greater meaning of hope. That if I truly believe, at least for me in my own faith context, and I'm going to use my own words to best describe that, even though I know everybody listening, and I know you don't necessarily, believe faith-wise the way that I believe. But if I believe in the words that God has spoken and confirmed in my life, it will, which is believing in what has been spoken is hope, believing in what's to come, it will change how I live today.
Yes.
And it will change my decisions. It'll change how I spend my time, how I spend my money, how my priorities in life, what kind of mood I wake up with, what kind of things, ritual I have before I go to bed, all of these things. When you have hope for something that's coming, it changes how you live today. And therefore it sets my heart in a mode of preparation and my life in a mode of preparation. So that's the sub definition, or a sub point of my word of the year, but the greater word and intention is hope.
It's the idea
and energy that one has about the future. So then it was oh my gosh, it's a word that I glossed over because, you know, I study it and quantify it within people. We measure it. We've preached about it forever. We say it all the time. The amount of times, not only in when we go and do a strength training or we talk about the impact of teammates, but also like the amount of times I say, I hope, you know, I'm hoping for this to happen, or I just, even the amount of times we use it in our language, like to me, it's a sacred word. And I feel like we treat it as such in some contexts, but not in others. And it is the most powerful indicator of success, not only within young people, but within us. And I don't know, there's something about the call to that in my own personal life and the embodiment of that then in how I live this year out.
I hope people do amazing things. So I think back to a dialogue that we had today about measurements. And all I care about in my job is building more hopeful people.
Yeah.
And the ripple effect of that has amazing indirect outcomes.
Yeah.
Because I do what I can to instill hope in other people and instill in them the belief and the power that they have to help other people be more hopeful.
Yeah.
When it all comes down to, I mean, really, what's your reason, what's your purpose and your reason for being?
Yeah. For you, it's
ripple effects. It's building that. I mean, I've tried to, you know, with New Year's kind of stuff and goals and reviewing the decade, I tried to, you know, what's a perfect day and what do you love doing and what do you love doing most? And it just all comes down to, I want people to feel better about themselves and about their future. And that doesn't require much.
Yeah.
But the fact that you would choose that word, when you think about, go back, which you do very well with your context, and look at how your other words have led to that. Okay,
so I, when I was in London, I had afternoon tea, and I was sitting and I was journaling about the prior year and how and what a word of contemplation brought, but then also how it was very much cadenced by the year before it of waiting well. So I did not know what I was waiting for when that word came to me. No idea what I was waiting for. But I had this kind of soul longing to say, I know I'm in some in-between in my life. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that looks like. All of us are, I would argue. All of us are, there's a gap between where we are and where we want to be, even if it's just our own personal growth and maturity, emotional health, if it's a career or education, whatever. There's always gaps in our lives between where we're at and where we want to be. And so I felt really a call to say there are two ways you can approach waiting, right? You can numb and you can pass the time, or you can engage meaningfully in the waiting to grow in the midst of it. And so I felt like it was a leaning in of waiting to grow, emotionally and spiritually and, whatever that looked like. Well, I think if you go back and listen to the podcast, you can hear both of us were in a really rough place this time last year. So January to March and April, I was in a very, very tough spot. Never diagnosed with it, but in that context, but borderline clinical depression. Like it was really hard. And, but it had been tempered and wasn't as destructive as it could have been because of the year of preparation prior. And that seems kind of probably hard, and a lot of people that have beef with God or beef with like even a logic like this say, well, you didn't need to have that hard time. You didn't, why would God, prepare you for such a hard time? And I don't exactly know why it happened, but I went into just a really, really deep funk. And, but a lot of that too was God having built up and letting that year of waiting well build up really great community. So I have incredible community, greater than I ever have, that really stuck with me through that. And it lasted 3, maybe 4 months when I've had, the longest bout of depression I had was a year, and not knowing how to get out of it and not seeing an end in sight. And so, So anyway, but I came out of that, I mean, slowly but surely, thankfully by the grace of awesome community and, different things, but I came out of that with a very, very clear and confirmed answer of next steps for me, of direction of where to go. And I have never been so resolved about what's coming. And it has never been so universally confirmed by coworkers and my manager and professors in my grad program and my parents and grandparents. Like every circle of people in my life has not only confirmed but gone above and beyond to support me. And I've never experienced that. And I don't think I would have been as resolved, as confirmed, and as in touch with that voice that spoke out this reality had I not been in a really hard place, really seeking and really listening and really being open to whatever came. And in that place, it was the preparation that had come before it. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's just crazy when I think back even to the last 2 years of how the year of waiting well built up for then when the crash happened, it wasn't as impactful. And I was able to walk out of that with a strong resolve to then step courageously into who I am and to where I'm going. And yeah, I don't even know. Those are my 7 things I feel like are encompassed in that.
No, you still have to do the 7 things.
I still have to do the assignment. I know. It'll be good. But
so my Genn and Millie folder has a sticky note from you. I don't know how long ago this was to you.
It was a while ago.
And it has a few reminders for you. And it's a note from Tess, but it isn't signed by Tess, but I'd know her handwriting anywhere. It's kind of like I would know a lot of people's handwriting from anywhere. Mm-hmm. Number 1, you are awesome. Number 2, you are doing an incredible job. Number 3, we're a better organization because of you. So messages of affirmation that at times you probably had no idea were helping me to be more hopeful. Mm. And this is what we do organizationally, but you model it with others. So I think not only is your word serving you, but your word is serving your circles and the greater good, because you share that. When you have when you have hope as a focus, you just can't help but to illuminate that light for others. I cannot believe. Wow, I'm going to listen back to this and kind of be in awe. I'm a little bit stunned and almost having a hard time coming up with words, which is so rare.
I know, and I am very stunned that literally everything, when I asked you to give just general speculations, was what my brain was going through all of the fall semester.
I never give myself enough credit for being intuitive.
Knowing people, yeah.
And, sometimes people will say, gosh, what are you, a mind reader? Because I can, hear their strengths or... Yeah. And not too long ago, I was having a conversation with a coworker while we were driving, and he said to me, gosh, you are so perceptive. Like, you are paying attention. He goes, I didn't even realize you noticed that. Like, you're paying attention. I'm not deliberately paying attention, but I am paying attention.
Yeah.
And
when you're forced to make the connections, you can very easily make the connections.
But I also feel energy.
Yeah.
I feel energy. And when I walk into a room, I mean, you see so much in nonverbals. Okay, you were totally getting my nonverbals today during a meeting. I was afraid to use my voice.
Yeah.
And I was reviewing some of the material from this meeting, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, like...
Your voice is all over it.
Here is all of this work and sometimes fighting that has finally produced some positive results for kids. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, like there it is, and it's right in front of me, and I feel like I should be, having a really big party to say this is incredible. And it wasn't that it got downplayed, but it was just kind of like it felt like I was reverting a little bit, and then I could feel myself thinking, don't say anything. You don't have to say anything. Don't say anything. And then physically I started moving. I started moving around in my chair, and you were right next to me. I knew you knew that I was holding back. And physically and energetically, I felt permission from this part of the room. Go ahead.
Yeah.
And I was shaking when I did it. But I'm really, really tired of not using my voice and not stepping into the power of choice for me to use my words for good. I am not choosing to use my words for something not positive. So there's always a good check-in.
Yeah.
Is what you're doing or saying for the benefit of a greater good? And if that is, then yes, it's kind of like why we do this.
Yeah.
Or when I look at the match support email, and the clicks and the links, I think 10,000 mentors and only 500. And then I thought, stop saying only 500.
500 people.
Because I would be happy, and I am overjoyed when I've got one mentor, Karen, who reaches out every time. And she says, thank you so much for your inspiring words. I had a mentor this time, different mentor, reach out and literally copy and paste your message of just keep showing up. She said, I needed to hear that. And, if one person or two people reach out and say,
that's worth it.
That's worth it. But the choice I have is to stop diminishing myself, which I do quite naturally.
Yeah.
I don't step into my power. I don't step into my voice. I don't step into my shine because I feel like I'm supposed to let something or someone else. And I'm kind of over that. And so the word choice means a lot of different things. Yeah. And how well the choice and hope words marry each other, I believe hope is a choice.
100% yes.
And I believe that hope influences choice dramatically.
Yeah.
Also, that I love that word very much.
Yeah.
Because of my friend Shane and everything that he taught me about ripples. So again, all the language in our meeting today, I'm like, I just hear Shane everywhere. I sense that someone who is teaching and talking about hope influences so many more lives than they realize. And you do that all the time, Tess. Every time that you share our percentage of kids who are more hopeful because of their mentor. Yeah. You're not just stating what happens during the mentoring relationship. You get people thinking about, oh my gosh, what happens when hope is involved?
Yeah.
What happens when I just do this one thing? Yeah. That the ripple effects go on. And that's what all of Shane's research pointed to. And that's what we know to be true in our mentoring relationships. So we have such a great year ahead.
Seriously. I also thought for sure you'd know it because I posted about this word.
You did.
You commented on it. Or you liked it. And I tagged you in it.
But
yeah.
Only
I know.
Wouldn't have thought that it was your word because you are quite scholarly, and I mean this in the most beautiful of ways. That's why I call you Professor Tess. You are quite scholarly, and hope doesn't feel like scholarish enough, whatever what I want to say is. It didn't feel scholarly enough to me, like a contemplation word.
Yeah.
But it is, you're right, so simple, so profound, so you, so meaningful in huge aspects. I mean, in all areas. And, I'm sure you'll get to say that word probably as often as I'll get to say choice.
Yeah.
It's amazing that we both chose commonly used words in the English language.
Yep. Yeah.
Without knowing a single thing. This is so profound to me that we know nothing about what the other one is considering, yet I'm thinking, you should know this, Tess.
Yeah.
Like, I've said it all the time, and you're thinking, I've tagged you in this. But yet, I think you probably saw and heard my word, but not plain enough. And
Yeah.
was describing your word, but not.
Yeah. Like, literally, okay, take everything you're talking about and sum it into one word.
Gosh, we have so much emotion in these podcasts, and it's so unintentional.
We just haven't seen each other forever. That's the problem, is we need to do a catch up before we just start recording.
Yeah, no doubt. People would probably be much delighted if Tess and Allison would just do a little bit of, could you check in? Could you possibly check in with each other before you get on and do 45 minutes of the two of you crying? The other thing I wanted to be sure that we share today, did I send this on to you yet about the power of celebration? So there's a guy out there, and maybe you've heard of him. His name is, Allison, please get it right. BJ Fogg.
Okay.
He has a TED Talk and a book about tiny habits.
Okay.
So I think you will find this profound. Social scientist Tess, also with your word of the year, you might find it even more interesting. He believes that if you use the power of celebration, habits will be more likely to stick. And he's got a whole bunch of research to show that this is true.
Okay.
So when you do something towards your goals, you do something that you're proud of, that proud of moment, you say to yourself out loud, in the mirror, whatever, victory, or yes, or well done, or yay, or whatever it is, because the endorphins related to celebration are so much more of a positive emotion, even physically and emotionally, that you're more likely to crave more of it. So he did this whole piece around flossing one tooth. So he flossed a tooth and then looked at himself in the mirror and said, good job, yay you, celebration. He also, his previous research was around tiny habits. So every time that he would go to the restroom, so, I mean, well, it's Genn and Millie. Well, we can say what we want. Because at the end, I'm going to say this isn't the reflections of anybody else. P equals one push-up. So when he would go pee, he would do one push-up. The guy can now do 40, 50 push-ups. Okay. Because he tied it to something that he already does, but it's a memory cue to do something towards a goal.
Sure.
Okay. So this piece of research that he's doing now is around how celebrations will help a habit stick. So, there's all this research. How many days does it take? And if which you'll get to see at conference, Jen McNally, who works for the SU, she poses the question to the audience, how many days till a habit will stick? Or how many days does it take to form a habit? And people say 21, 28, 7, 14. And then her next slide is, doesn't matter, it's individual. There is really not enough research to say there's a certain amount of days. It's up to the individual person. Sure. What Mr. Fogg is saying is that when you tie a habit to a celebration, it's more likely to stick.
Huh.
So I have been doing this. I mean, I do this. So it's a cheerleader stance. You can't see me, but it comes so freely to me because it was the cheerleader stance.
Richard Nixon V for victory, but with your arms instead of your fingers.
I would also call this Richard, what's his name, the exercise guy? Oh my gosh, you don't know him.
Nope.
Richard,
somebody is listening to this recording and they're like yelling it out.
Richard, he's an exercise guy, and he wore really short shorts, and everywhere he went, he was zany. And then there was just a documentary. Richard Simmons. There's a documentary out about, where is Richard Simmons, or what happened to Richard Simmons, or something like that. Anyway, so Richard Simmons.
Party off the pounds.
Yes. Okay. So he would do this. He would do this, and every time you'd see him on TV or his videos, he would be like, yay! And the V for victory. Okay? So that's, when I say that, it's a cheer term, ready, okay, is here, and then V for victory.
Oh, yeah.
Because that was the start of the cheer. So I have the V pose, but
just imagine her dancing in this small conference room.
So I'm double jointed.
Okay.
Fun fact.
Interesting.
And so my elbows kick out. So my cheer sponsor, whenever I would do V for victory, she would be like, Allison. So I would do this so that my arms wouldn't look wonky because I'm double jointed. So the V for victory, I have sleeves on. I can do it this way. So I've been doing this anytime that I check off a habit goal. So a habit goal for me right now is honoring not looking at my phone so much.
Okay.
So I am really being tactical and strategic about staying off the phone. Took Facebook app off my phone.
Okay. Yeah.
And I give myself time, certain times that I can look at it. Then I have all the time structures on my phone now. So at 8 p.m., everything shuts down.
Yep.
I plug it in a different room so that I'm not tempted to look at it at night when I wake up with worries, because I used to do that, get on Pinterest and then not be able to sleep. So the phone is literally going further away from me. When I went on a trip with my kids, which was the most present I've been in a long time, not on purpose, but I left the phone behind and I had forgotten it. So we were in Castle Rock at Kim's. I left it plugged in. The kids and I went to Garden of the Gods. I jump out of the car because I want to take some pictures. I'm like, just come back and get me, because Lauren was driving because I'm trying to shoot pictures.
Yeah.
I had no phone. And then I was completely admonished by my children, like, that is so irresponsible that you just jump out of the car and you don't have your phone and we didn't even know where to find you. I said, okay, it's not, you'd eventually figure out where I am. I'm not going to go hiking. So it was really interesting for me to how much more present I felt by leaving the phone behind. So when I successfully do something that's geared towards one of my habits, I do V for victory. And I mean, there's times in the car I'm doing it. There's times I'm alone in my apartment that I'm doing it. I love it. But I did it the other day here at the office.
Okay.
And I don't know if anybody noticed, but I went. Now, it kind of looks like this, palms facing forward sometimes, like Oprah celebrate, like, you get a car, like that. But also it means success.
Victory. Okay.
So his research shows it doesn't take 21 days to wire in a habit. Sometimes all you need is a shot of positive feeling and emotion, a dose of celebration. Celebrating is a great way to reinforce small changes and pave the way for big successes, which we also know when it comes to choice and hope. Those little
small
pieces
touches.
Can.
Okay, so this year I shared about this. We just did a strengths lunch and learn that we do once a month for our staff internally, and I shared we were talking about strategic this month as one of the themes, and I talked about how I had gone to a coffee shop and done some goal planning and goal setting for myself. So I've done this in previous years, but I didn't do it last year with contemplation, but I set out 3 sub-strategies for my goal of hope and for my word of hope.
I can get my notebook out.
Oh my gosh, no. So a big piece of where I want to be is setting some very specific financial goals. And so I read a book called Save God, Serve the Planet, or Serve God, Save the Planet. And so it was all about how, it was this radical call to environmental stewardship as a way to serve God. And so it was, not drying your laundry and, radically changing your diet and all these things, like this doctor who had gone through, all of these massive changes. But one of his really calls, and actually in another book that I referenced on here, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, that I read not too long ago, had really significant and radical calls to simplicity. And so in this book, Serve God, Save the Planet, it's a part of a book club that I'm a part of, and we are talking about it. And one of the principles that he does is a 30-day wait period on discretionary spending. Yeah. And so if there is a shirt or a trip or like anything that you want, right, that's not an essential component of living, right? It's not food, it's not shelter, it's not
want versus need.
Anything that you might want, right? He waits 30 days, he and his family wait 30 days, and either you've forgotten about it, you don't want it anymore, or you really have come to a point where you're like, I am willing to purchase that, right? And so it just essentially cuts out on unnecessary spending. And I have some financial goals that I want to meet, so that's like one of my first subplots, because that's part of preparation. That subword for me of hope is preparing financially. So 30-day wait policy is my first sub-principle, and that one's very like concrete and quantitative. The other 2 are not so much. And so my second one is keeping the why at forefront. So reminder of purpose. which is all about hope, right? Because I heard one time one of my mentors say the phrase, spiritual mentor of mine, and she said, in your life as a Christian, you will have to say no to a lot of things, but your yes will always be greater. May your yes be always bigger than the no's. And I think it was just such a cool principle to remind us of why, like the greater picture. So in the end, not binging out on Netflix one night for the sake of making sure I really know my class content for the week is reminding me of the why I'm getting this degree and where I'm going with it. So something as simple as that. My third principle is celebrate.
Oh my gosh.
Which is why I brought that up in the context of this article, which I'm excited to read. We move on too quickly from things.
You bet.
One of my pastors preached on the spiritual practice of celebration earlier in the fall, and how taking time to pause and celebrate what you've accomplished, what God has done, prayers that have been answered are very significant to building up one another and reminding us of our why. So it's all interconnected. And so part of hope, which yes is forward facing, is also celebrating the steps that we've taken to get there, which is retrospective, right? Part of living in hope is being assured of what's to come.
It's also about being present.
Yeah, we need to remind ourselves of where we've been, right? And then where we're at right now. And so, taking time to pause
can happen
and celebrate.
In the present.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so again, none of this is pre-discussed.
This is so crazy.
So I got my new, those of you who follow me on, not follow me, but are friends with me on social media know that I spent a ridiculous amount of time figuring out what planner I wanted to finally make the decision to do a real planner. And this full focus planner that I have is a Michael Hyatt model. He's this productivity guru, and I had to watch 10 tutorials to learn how to use the thing, and it's only quarterly.
Okay.
So this is 1 quarter. 1 quarter in this book.
Okay.
And so what you do is their model is you break down your annual goals, and then you focus on them quarterly. Now, I don't like that model. What I want to do is I want to focus on all my goals all the time. So I'm doing it a little bit differently. Like their model is choose a couple, and then this quarter you work on those.
Yeah. Okay.
That's not going to work for me. So my goals, which you are limited to 10, I believe, and I chose 7. I'm going to share 6 of them. Financial stability is my first goal.
Okay.
Like literally, we have not discussed this one tiny bit. And it breaks it down. So you have your goal summary. You decide, is it an achievement goal? Is it a habit goal? Is it a financial, spiritual, parental, intellectual, social? It breaks it all down.
Yep.
What are your key motivations? What are your next steps? And then reward. So back to your waiting 30 days. And I read an article about this around the holidays. How hard it is to buy Christmas gifts now for kids is because we are I want it now, I get it now.
Yeah.
That was not how I grew up. So generational difference, there was not an Amazon click button.
Yeah.
And so I had to want and hope for my boombox, not thinking in a million years that I was going to get it. So we don't have that anymore. If we want it, we get it now. Yeah. So really kind of the reward. So I would have to achieve this goal in order to get this reward. So my financial...
How revolutionary.
Really, 10 tutorials. So the goal detail of financial stability, my reward is a solo fine dining experience.
Yes. Okay.
So another goal that I have is increasing focus. That is part of the reason I bought this. That's why I'm putting the phone away. That's why I'm trying to be more present, because I felt the last year nothing but scattered and I don't have time to think. That's why coming up celebrating my birthday, I am not celebrating my birthday with lots of happy hours and fun with friends. I'm going on a solitude retreat.
Yes.
By myself. Hence the word solitude. So increased focus. My key motivations are time management and my well-being. I mean, I can't be working and getting 6 hours of sleep because I'm literally working up until I go to bed and then having to be on the road at 6 in the morning. So well-being, and then just forward movement. My reward for increased focus is I'll get myself the next quarter planner.
Okay.
If I can't do these things, then I'm not going to reward myself. It's not just an automatic for me.
Yeah.
Getting organized is one. The quarter planner goes into that. Improving well-being is another goal. And my reward is new clothes for Florida. Florida is actually, our Florida girls trip is coming up February 11th, so I probably am going to have to adjust some things. But the solitude weekend ties into this. Healing is the goal. Celebrate. Celebrate is my goal detail.
Oh my gosh.
My goal number 6
is celebrate.
And the reason, my key motivations: be an example to others, be present, and recognizing loss and how short life is. Yeah. So over the week, the first week of the new year, my uncle passed away. My uncle was a profound entrepreneur, brilliant. I mean, he was a tinkerer, thinker, so he would create all these things. So bison rims, breakaway rims, all kinds of amazing things. He was an awesome innovator, but he worked a lot. Yeah. A lot. And what I saw in while he was on hospice was a reflection of what really mattered. He had a good sense of balance. So he worked a lot, but family also came first. Yeah. And at his funeral, I heard my Uncle Tim do the eulogy. And the ending of the eulogy is, we always think we have more time. Yeah. And so even loss has helped me to understand the value of celebrating. This one is a private one. But I have future casting that I'm excited about. But I limited myself to 7 instead of, my high achiever saying, well, you must have all 10. So here are your goals, okay? Then you have a monthly calendar. You have rolling quarters. So what your quarter goals and high level things that have to happen. Yeah. So here's January. Alma, which I need a whole podcast on Alma.
Okay. Yeah.
It was fantastic. And I'm going to write a blog piece, and they've reached out because I talked about hospitality.
Awesome.
And they've reached out about, can we repeat some of these things you said? And I said, yes, it was
absolutely
awesome. So I've got Cambridge coming up, which I know is going to be awesome. Yes. So my big things are in here. And then it breaks down to your daily rituals, which you put in here, your ideal week, but then each week, okay? So here's each day, you do a weekly preview. And you carry from last week's accomplishments. This is so us, okay? List 3 to 5 accomplishments from the past week. So what went well?
Yep.
And then how far did you get on goals? How do you tie them back to your yearly goals? What worked? What didn't? What will you keep, improve, start, or stop doing? And then you do a list sweep. So you tag these, like this is done, check mark. A arrow means I need to put this to a future date. Or 0 means I need to delegate it. Or a circle. Then you say, refer to your calendar, goals, and tasks, and what will happen this coming week.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it is intense. And I love everything about it. Stacy, former program coordinator in Nebraska City, was the one who recommended this. And I'm really loving it. But it ties so well into my word of the year, which is choice. Yeah. How you spend your time and resources is a direct reflection of your priorities. And that is the Dave Chappelle quote. I also think back to me as a mom. I would always say to my kids, you can choose your choices. You cannot choose your consequences. And so choice being my word of the year made all kinds of sense. I had to hide all kinds of things from you.
Seriously?
Things were falling out of my planner. So WYLD, which is an awesome organization that helps really focus on leadership and future casting and all kinds of development and engagement. WYLD sends out a postcard and has a beautiful quote on the front and on the back. What's your word of the year? Use this as a focus of your intention and attention to as the year progresses. And then what will be different if you live the next year, demonstrating the word that you have chosen.
The word you've chosen. Choice.
So not just choice, does this represent? But future casting and hope.
Yeah.
These two questions, or these two segments, which are a couple of different questions, really honor that. So I think we all can, walk around with the word of the year, but to be asked to contemplate what would be different if you live this word. Mm-hmm. So I not only wrote down my word of the year, but then had to really identify what would look different if I really make choice my word of the year. So Tess, what would look different if you really make hope your word of the year?
Lots of things. I mean, it's hard to...
You don't have to answer. I just want you to think about it.
Those things, yeah.
I mean, I think those questions are really good.
I feel like some of them are personal and
Yep. Same thing with my last goal.
Some of yours, but yeah.
So, what would we like to task our readers with? Okay, you are doing so 7 things.
So much.
I'm getting kind of a little bit, I just want to put this out there. I give you homework and you don't do it.
What?
Where's your MySpace?
Oh, I haven't been able to find it. I've looked a couple times. I will find it. It's on the World Wide Web somewhere.
Because I'm going to look for the Christmas letter if I have to, although I brought some.
Yep, you brought some, but I think I asked specifically for one of your Christmas letters.
Okay, so I believe
we'll keep each other
the homework that is accountable to Tess, dear listeners, is
do it.
7 pieces of you.
Yep, okay.
And then I would love to hear from our listeners 7 pieces of them. Yep. I imagine all of these people that subscribe to her blog, and she takes the time to read those and respond.
Yeah.
And what a really innovative way to get to know your readers better. Mm-hmm. So we, I think, could do a better job asking our listeners to tell us about them.
Yeah.
So 7 pieces of you
Yep.
Is a great assignment to our listeners, and it's going to be your next reveal.
My next assignment, yes.
On the next Genn and Millie, which would be number 59,
I believe.
What happens when we get to 60?
I don't know. We talked a lot about when we get to 50, but we didn't do a whole lot with it. So we need to celebrate. Celebration is in both of our goals for the year.
Why don't we do a video game?
Okay. Yeah,
we're capable. We could do it with this.
Yeah. Okay. Alrighty. Well, we will see. Thanks, everybody.
Non-promise.
For tuning in to episode 58 of Genn and Millie. My goodness. What an ep it has been. What a joy. If you enjoyed today's conversation, consider sharing this episode with a friend, is what I've written down, because I read this the same every time, but you don't need to, given my breakdown on this one.
Oh, really? Is that what we get to say now?
No.
Whoopsie.
I get to read the conclusion, so actually I'm the one who gets to modify it. So thanks, Allie. To interact with us and share the responses to the question, mainly our one follow-up of the 7 pieces of you question that we posed in this episode, you can email us directly. We'd love that. You can also interact with us by giving us a follow on Instagram at Genn and Millie. That's at GENNANDMILLIE. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are exclusively that of Allison Horn and Tess Starman and may not reflect the views of Teammates Mentoring Program. Until next time, thanks for tuning in.